これ大丈夫かな？破られないかな？
テレビには5台、6台、いえ、もっと映ってたかもしれませんわ。
Connected before, but now it is. There we go. See? Easy as that.
全部ワゴン車で、中には変な男たちがいっぱい。
簡単には破られないでしょうが、荒ごとに慣れている連中です。過信しない方がいいでしょ
う。Before he could even finish speaking, someone pounded on the door. The second group of mountain dogs had arrived. Although the heavy door was separating them, it wasn't at all comforting to know that the enemy was just on the other side.
私の失態ですみません。
監督は何も失敗してないですよ。とにかく奥へ行こ
う。そうだな。監視カメラの様子で敵の人数を探ろうぜ。
はいはい。私はのけ者で事情もわからずいきなりクライマックスですよ。もうあんたには5分時間ができたら全部説明するから。
ウグイス1より大鳥1。標的は防空壕のようなところへ逃げ込んだ。扉は鋼鉄製、突破できない。
大鳥1了解。この園崎家ってやつはとんでもない金持ちだな。敷地が広すぎて包囲は不可能だ。包囲は断念。ウグイスはその辺の倒木を探せ。
Hello, evil slime! How are you doing?
大筒にして扉をぶち破る。
Knock some trees down, we'll use them to ram the door. Okay.
インドア用のプラ爆があります。準備しますか。
Plastic explosives are explosives for military use. There are various different kinds, but he was talking about the type specially made to break down doors. Okonogi momentarily thought it was a good idea, but changed his mind right away. This was a small village. If there was an explosion, everybody would hear. It was daytime and they were on the surface. It was the worst time and place for the mountain dogs to do their job.
さすがに爆破は無理だな。いや待て、今何時だ？
もうじき10時です。
I thought it was 10 a.m. already.
使えるぞ。大鳥セブン、やるぞ。新刊を準備しろ。
は？隊長、どうして10時だと爆破が可能なんですか？
Okunogi's mind was working sharper than ever. He was sure that this would work. Everyone gathered in the secret room.
みんな大丈夫なのですか？監視カメラを見てましたのです。敵は多分30人くらいいますのです。
そんなにかよ。やってくれるぜ。
ちょっとスイッチをいじるよ。連中立ち往生してるよ。
When Mion touched a switch, the screen switched to the view of the entrance to the basement. Some of the mountain dogs were checking out the door. They didn't appear to be trying to force it open. They were simply at a loss for what to do.
向こうはどう打って出るでしょう。こっちを袋のネズミと思ってますもの。多分大勢で体当たりでもして無理やり
Oh,
破
they
る
have
気
the
ですわ。
secret passage out. They could just take, right?
なんだこいつら。
They easily could do that.
どうやらあれで扉を打ち破ろうとしているようです。
今、サトコが袋のネズミだと言いました。なら、相手が扉を開けようと苦闘している間に、ここを脱出するべきだと思います。
同感です。それに、富武さんも助け出さないと。
そうだね。いくらここの壁が厚くても、敵に見つかったら価値はないと思う。レナも脱出する時だと思うな。
おねえ、この状況ならもうとっくに警察に電話できる段階じゃありません？だね。一番最初の市民の権利を忘れてたよ。仮に警察のスパイに電話を聞かれたとしても、もうこの段階ではバレバレだしね。大
Okay.
石さんが駆けつけてくれるはずさ。
Mion picked up the phone. Why hadn't she thought about this earlier? Yeah, why didn't you? Oh, is there no service down here or something?
どうした？
Oh, did they cut the phone lines? Mion panicked as she tried to listen for a dial tone.
電話が、なんで？うんともすんとも言わない。
ケーブルが切られたかもしれません。
Suddenly, everything went dark.
なんだろう、停電？
Kasai lit his cigarette lighter, and Mion turned on her emergency flashlight.
地下の弱点を突かれたね。
でも、これだけ暗ければ敵だって簡単には。わかんないけど、多分暗闇でも見える機械とかあるんじゃない？持ってそうよね、あの連中。
ミオンさん、どうして敵は電気を切断しましたの？ただの嫌がらせ？
嫌がらせ以上の意味があるとすれば、ここのセキュリティを殺すこと。
あいつら扉を撫でてましたの。諦めたんじゃない。あっという間に壊す方法を持ってて、それを気づかれないためにカメラを壊そう。
Okay, yeah, I think that's basically it.
まさか爆破する気？
ってことは扉は
Go
一瞬で破
quickly
られて
down the secret
ここに
passage.
もう砦の価値はねえってことじゃねえのか？
みーちゃん、今すぐにここを脱出しよう。さっき言ってた核シードの脱出口を教えて。
こっちです、みんな。
Mion was getting confused amidst all the chaos. She hadn't underestimated the mountain dogs. She even considered that they would have some kind of explosives, but she didn't think they would use them in Hinamizawa in broad daylight. Somebody will hear the explosion. Is there even such a thing as a silent explosive?
荒っぽい連中なんだろう。多少の危険は顧みないのかもしれないぜ。確かにこんな時代ですが、山犬は非常に慎重な奴らです。こんな真っ昼間に爆弾なんて。高野さんならともかく、あのお好みさんが許可するはずがない。
それでもぶち抜こうってのかい。いい度胸だよ。
レナはわかんないんだけど、音がしない鉄砲があるように、音がしない爆弾ってあるの？
ないです。どんな爆弾もみんな似たような音がします。
そうか、わかりましたわ。監督は綿流しの本部役員ですわよね。
Okay.
今日のお祭り、雨天延期の判断は？
確か今日の10時に決まって。
You should try Bug Snacks. It's a fun game. I would probably play Bug Snacks 2 if I've tried anything. Because I've already seen the entire playthrough. Because Bug Snacks 2 is a game, right? Like, I'm not tripping. I'm pretty sure what is it? Bug Snacks 2. I swear I've seen this before. Wait, let me look this up. Bug Snacks 2. Oh, no, Isle of Bug Snacks was an update. Never mind. Okay. Okay, never mind. But yeah, I've watched a playthrough of Bug Snacks, the original game, so I kind of already know a lot of the stuff with it. But it seemed like a fun game. I definitely would have tried it if, you know, I didn't watch the playthrough already. But it's cool. Like, I do think it's a cool game.
まさか運動会と同じで。
火を隠すには森ってことね。
Rika knew Okonogi well. He would always complain about how he had to guard her like she was a princess. Rika had never expected Okonogi to be so sharp. That was why she was more frustrated than anyone else. Have you played it yourself, Evil Slime? Mountain dogs had quickly set explosives on the basement door. Long wires were connected to the explosives, and the mountain dogs were waiting at the other end, lying flat on the ground. One of the members was holding a detonation switch. What are your thoughts on it? All the wires were linked to it.
もうじき10時です。
今朝連中に先生を撃たれた時はよ。
I sent a screenshot in general. Oh, okay. It's the birthday cake fighter. And then there's the pizza something. I don't know what that is. Like a snail, maybe? And there's like a sheep, a Sioux sheep. And then, I don't know, the watermelon something. It's a good, you know what? It seems like a fun game. It's a goofy game, but it's fun. Like, it looks fun. Okunogi had realized he could use the festival effectively. He was going to make sure his enemies got what they deserved. On the morning of a village event, they used fireworks to let everyone know that an event is going to take place that day. The method is often used for track and field days at school. Since Watanagashi starts in the evening, fireworks go up at 10 a.m. The fireworks, of course, make loud explosive noises. The Hinamizo is located in a ravine. The sound echoes, making it hard to figure out where it's coming from. That was an advantage for the mountain dogs.
Yari.
A loud noise and shock shook the ground like an earthquake. The explosion must have warped support beams everywhere. There was a discomforting squeaky noise and dust fell from the ceiling. It was certainly powerful. The explosion must have blown the door wide open. An explosion that took place without anyone noticing it.
さあ入ってこの奥だよ
Mion led everyone into one of the rocky caves. There was a well-hidden shaft in there. They called it a hidden well, but it was actually a very eerie vertical tunnel. They didn't have enough flashlights for everyone, so there's no way for them to see the entirety of this ominous hidden well.
こいつを降りろってのか。どこまで続いてるんだ。
だいぶ降りると途中に横穴があるの。そこを抜ければ山中の古井戸に抜けられるようになってる。
Nobody trip! Nobody trip and fall or anything.
ってことはそれについて一番詳しいお姉が先頭打者決定です。お先にどうぞ。私がトップ？他の誰がトップなんです？しんがりは私と葛西が務めます。早く行って。わかった。
Mion was going to volunteer to take the rear, but Mion and Shion knew instinctively, because there's so many of them, the rear might not make it in time. Unlike the iron door at the entrance, once the enemies were inside, all they have to do is go through the inner doors, which were easily breakable. The route was basically a straight line. They probably won't get lost on their way. That's why Shion took the rear guard position before Mion did. After all, she was actually the older sister. Shion wanted to protect her younger sister, who was playing older sister in this real emergency. Mion intuitively knew what Shion was thinking. Mion understood well the relationship between her sister and herself. She wasn't the only one who felt guilty for taking the older sister position. Shion felt guilty for making Mion take on the responsibility of the family head. And here, finally, was a chance for Shion to atone.
ミオンさん、
Meow.
武器庫の鍵を今は開けるべき時です。
The armory? There's an armory down here? Mion silently threw over the key. Kasai and Shion took it and ran deep into the rock tunnel.
みんな聞いて。横穴まではだいたい30メートルちょっと。落ちたら底なしだよ。しかも真っ暗なんだからね。慎重に降りて。待機してる人はちゃんとはしごを照らしてあげること。一度にせいぜい1人か2人しか降りられないね。私が先陣を照らしてて。
ミオンさん、気をつけて。照らす人も落ちないように。
If the lights were on, they could have gone down quickly. There were actually a few light bulbs inside of the well. Of course, Mion had already checked them. It was now certain that the enemy had cut the power to the basement. It was extremely dangerous to go down this well, just with just a little light from the flashlights. As one went down, there had to be people lighting the way. Mion was right. She realized as she went down herself that it was almost impossible to go down the ladder without the weak light from the flashlights. The lights didn't reach all the way down. In the darkness, her feet suddenly became unsteady. Every step she took made her more nervous. It was about 30 meters to the horizontal tunnel. That's quite deep enough already, but the hidden well went deeper than that. If Mion fell, she wouldn't just injure herself. Hasn't it been 30 meters yet, she thought? She couldn't even remember exactly how long 30 meters was. Had she missed the horizontal tunnel already? At that time, she felt a cool breeze on her body. She could sense a huge hole nearby, so she took out her flashlight to light the surrounding area. She saw the black tunnel yawning before her. Mion led up the way from below.
よっしゃ、次はリカちゃんだ。その次が監督で、次が羽生、佐藤な。どんどん降りろよ。
Irie wanted to say that he would go last, but Anna gave the order first. They couldn't get into the basement of the clinic without Irie. Without him, they couldn't rescue Tomitake. Their lives were all equally important, but at least for the moment, his was the second most vital after Rika.
気をつけてください。照らしています。
わかってる。みんなも急いで。あ、
Rika was much shorter than Mion. She couldn't go down the ladder as easily. Her legs were too short and her left foot slipped.
大丈夫。くそ。いつまで経っても成長できない人生なんてごめんよ。私は昭和58年6月を超える。そしてね、もっともっと身長が伸びるのよ。胸だって。
Okay,
いつまで
Rika.
もこんな子供の体なんて絶対にごめんなんだから。
Though she had been living for over 100 years, Rika was still afraid of heights. As she fought that fear, she tried to climb down as quickly as possible. After a while, the light from the top didn't reach her anymore, and Mion's light from below lit her way. Mion's light was enough. The next person could come down.
僕はもう大丈夫です。次
わかりました。先に行きます。
The mountain dogs move forward carefully, wearing special goggles so they can see in the dark. The one in front noticed Satsuko's trapped and stopped the rest of the
ウ
men.
グイス7よりウグイス1へワイヤー反応のトラップを突入は慎重を要す。
ウグイス1了解。大鳥1トラップの痕跡少なからず通電を検討されては。
バカ野郎、そんなことしたら連中が逃げやすくなっちまうじゃねえか。向こうはこの暗闇で逃げるのもままならねえはずだ。俺たちに有利なフィールドを最大限に使うんだ。この暗闇で追い詰めて捕らえろ。これほどのでかい号だ。別に出口がきっとある。連中は隠れたりしないぞ。必ずそこから逃れようとする。
Okay, he knows!
突入班に火器と防弾盾。
Why bulletproof shields? I guess no, because there's an armory down there, so maybe, yeah, maybe he does know what he's talking about.
いや、ヤクザの大御所だ。密輸拳銃くらいの反撃は想定しろよ。ってことは、そのワイヤートラップもクライマー程度には注意しろってこと。全身に1000個も鉛玉食らいたくなかったらな。全身バラバラになるぞ。
了解。
Satsuko's traps were effective only because they were professionals. Satsuko had assumed any professionals would misinterpret her traps as as more dangerous ones. That's why she ran wires everywhere. And Satsuko was right. Although the mountain dogs were successful at breaking down the iron door, they hadn't even reached the torture room. However, the huge cave with the hidden well was just on the other side of the door to the torture room. It was just a matter of time before the enemy caught them.
よっしゃ、次はレナだ。
ケイチ君も急いでね。
ケイちゃん、どんな感じですか？
ああ、今レナが降りてる。
Wait, what? I thought Shion was getting the guns. She was bringing up the rear.
はいはい、焦って落ちないようにね。その井戸、歴代園崎家に逆らった連中の死体を捨てるのに使ったって噂もある底なしの井戸だそうですから。
シオン、お前なんだよ、その持ってるの。
Shion had returned with a big machine gun in her hands. Holy. What the heck? Keiichi thought. It's one of those machine guns they use in war movies. Its defining characteristic is the way the magazine bent forward. What's it called again? Kasai had one in his hands too. He appeared used to handling machine guns. It almost didn't look real, but it seemed like a natural fit for this surreal world lit only by flashlights. Keiichi felt like the odd one here since he didn't know how to use a gun. Shion and Kasai hid on opposite sides of the cave so they could see the entrance to the torture room. Not only Kasai, but Shion also seemed to be used to doing things like that.
シオン、その役は俺がやる。だから次はシオンが降りろ。
ケイちゃんの男のプライド。でもケイちゃんにカラシニコフの説明をするより、ケイちゃんの番になったらキリキリ降りてくれる方がロスタイムは少ないです。気にしないで、いい女は死なないから。
Yo, Bogan! Thank you for the 17 months. Appreciate it, appreciate it. Thank you. How are you doing? As Shion winked at Keiichi, they heard a door being knocked down nearby. Immediately, Shion and Kasai's looks turned stern, and they took cover behind the rocks, aiming their guns into the darkness. The enemies had entered the torture room. There was a flashlight next to the door. Oh, nice, nice. How was your day today? Kasai had left it there. The mountain dogs seemed to be able to see in the darkness, even though they couldn't. So it was an improvised solution. Yeah, it was good. I woke up, went to the grocery, got some stuff, made some food, made some chicken fajitas today, and worked more on my video, and then played some League games. That's about it. In other words, the door was the only thing separating them from their enemies. Yeah. I think it was a pretty fruitful day, I would say. So I have my food made, so tomorrow when I wake up, I'll have push day tomorrow, so I have to do that. Or I did some work in a recording sesh. What were you recording?
シオン、お前が先に降りろ。
シオンさ
んで、ケイちゃんに譲って私だけ生き残ったら、私はお姉に一生恨まれますって。私の思い人はもういないけど、お姉にはいるもん。
は？ お前この忙しい時に何の
I'm working. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. How's that going?
死ぬ気はないけどシオンに伝えて。私たちまた次の時も双子がいいね。行け！
Shion yelled, telling Keiichi to move on. You didn't understand why Shion said to tell Shion? Well, not great? Why is it not great? But she asked him, so he had to convey that message. Otherwise, something terrible really happened. If something terrible really happened, Shion's message would never reach Mion. An explosion shook the air. Something was thrown from the torture room. The explosion from that and the noise from Kasai's machine gun sounded at the same time. The clamor echoed into the cave. So how many things are you planning on doing? Risk of Rain 2, Slay the Spire, what else? What's your plan? All I can do as those violent flashes of light burn the series of images into my eyes is shed tears over my own intolerable powerlessness and climb down the ladder. Mion quickly screamed from below. I descended and screamed up to the top, too.
ウグイス1攻撃を受けた。敵は隠し部屋奥の大空洞内で阻止線を展開。マズルフラッシュは2、おそらく AK だ。
集団がうまいぞ、プロだ。大鳥1、指示を行う。
No, is this where Shion dies here? Surely Shion dies here. This is the best timeline. Surely there's no deaths in this, right? That's the idea. Because if Shion dies, then it's not the best timeline. Even if Kasai dies, it's not the best timeline.
ウグイス1、2、大鳥7、8。
And one more I haven't thought about yet. Well, okay, let's see. You Binding of Isaac, Balatro, right? You kind of want to have a good mix of roguelikes, right? So you have why is that when you why is that when you come in, Rissa, by the way? But yeah. You have a deck builder, right? Balatro is kind of like a deck builder, but it's different. You have Risk of Rain 2, which is kind of like an action roguelike. Binding of Isaac, which is the roguelike. What would be like a good thing to round out that? Maybe you could do like something with Mugenics. Have you ever played Mugenics? Maybe something like that. Because kitty go meow. I am still a cat, by the way. It's like you perfectly redeemed it to where like I was about to turn it off, and then you redeemed it at this point. So I don't know how you managed to know that. Meow, I guess.
MP5 が4、各種グレネード多数。
Dude, I don't know, never played Mugenics. It does look like a banger of a game. I agree.
防弾盾は突撃中には使用できない。
there. I did meow.
入ってすぐ脇に発光した懐中電灯が
Tuno
落ち
loves Mugenics. I haven't ever played Mugenics in my life. There's probably some roguelike that you can find. I was thinking either Wizard of Legend of Hades. Yeah, I mean, both of them work. Like, I mean, it's like, you know, it's your challenge. You can decide what they are.
おそらく向こうは暗視装備がないものと推定。
ウグイス1だ。突入は俺たちでやる。合図と同時
Don't
に
they have
スタングレネー
cats?
ドを放り
Yes,
込み
it's
突入された。
entirely about cats. We got Taco Bell? Well, I hope your toilet doesn't break after eating Taco Bell, and everyone eats Taco Bell. While the enemies were quiet, Kasai changed his magazine.
シオンさん、もう十分です。言ってください。
私が抜けたら葛西がダンスを変えている間に誰が弾幕張るんです？ツーマンセルが基本でしょ。
There was a contradiction in what Shion just said. According to her theory, the last two can never escape. Mion kept shouting from the tunnel below.
シオンのバカ！早く降りて！
Everyone knows it wasn't safe to stay. Nobody could stop Mion from screaming.
俺とミオンはここでシオンを待つ。レナはみんなを連れて裏山に逃げてくれ。
わかった。
Taco Bell is great. I agree. I wish I had a Taco Bell nearby to me more, so I could get Taco Bell more. It does not, even though it obviously is, it doesn't feel like fast food.
嫌よ。誰がかけても嫌。 リカ。
これが最後の世界なのよ。ここで一つ後悔が残ったから、もう一度やり直そうというのはもう、私は嫌よ。シオンが死んだり、カサイが死んだりする未来はごめんよ。
Yeah, that's
もう
what
やり
Rika's
直せ
saying.
ないって知ってるから。嫌よ、嫌、絶対嫌。
Except if you're East Coast right now. Well, there, yeah, you have Ortheo. Yeah, who's, what is it? Doesn't want to have the... No, because of hantavirus.
だからシオン、早く降りてきて。
As they looked up to the top of the well, they saw a violent flash and heard a roar. Then they heard explosive sounds. Apparently Taco Bell is one of the main... Really? I didn't know that. The lettuce. Is it just not being washed properly or what? They also heard a tinkling sound, which could have been the sound of bullet shells. They couldn't see anything other than the flashing lights. When the noise reached them. When everything stopped. After a little silence, footsteps that didn't belong to Shion or Kasai gathered at the top of the well. They could hear hard-soled shoes kicking the bullet shells as they walked. That voice echoed down the well, and Mion and the others heard it too. They didn't know how to react. Some became speechless, some started to cry, some let out a wordless scream. They looked up at the well, and they waited for Shion and Kasai to come down. But there's no sign of them. A bright beam of light shone down from top of the well. Yuria grabbed Mion and Keiichi's collars and pulled them back. But they could see in the dark. They might already know that Keiichi and the others were hiding in that horizontal tunnel. A guy shouted from the top of the well. Also, it's cyclosporiasis? I don't know how to say that. Not hantavirus, I'm pretty sure. Okay. I don't know. I know both of those are spreading, so, or I know hantavirus was spreading. I don't know about the other one. I saw an article saying that it gives... Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing everyone says, that it gives violent diarrhea. They had already turned all the flashlights off, so nobody could tell what kind of expressions were on each other's faces. But I could sense Mion's expression distorting. And because of the darkness, nobody knew to stop her from screaming. I have tunovirus. What is tunovirus? Mion didn't rest easy at their announcement, though, because she knew Shion's survival wouldn't help resolve the situation. So many viruses going around. They're all variants of COVID, right? As Mion looked up to the top of the well in the darkness, it suddenly became very bright and she saw something unbelievable. Shion was unconscious and one of the men was holding her. He was basically sticking her body out over the edge of the well. I don't think a virus would make you do that, Dianea! If the man let go of Shion, she would fall to the bottom. He had no idea how far down it went. There's no way she'd survive. Shion didn't reply, but she moved just a little bit. Shion was alive. At least, for the moment. Tunovirus causes uncontrollable meowing. I don't think so. Right? I don't think that would happen. I don't think that's how a virus works. And in any case, if it's related to me, I don't think that's the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, there are many things that would come to mind before that.
人質ってのはね、2人以上いる時に限りいくらでも殺せるんだよ。上にはシオンとカサイさんがいる。奴はシオンを突き落としてもう一度こっちに同じ選択を迫れるんだよ。はったりなんかで言ってるんじゃないんだよ。
Mion lashed out fiercely at Keiichi. He regretted saying what he just did.
考える時間が必要なら与える。ただし60秒経過したら最初の人質を突き落とす。よく考えて 素早
But
く決断しろ。
Akasaka is gonna come in 60 seconds. He's gonna arrive.
どうしようどうしよう。
Mion was half crazed with fear and panic.
敵の狙いは私です。リカさんはすでに脱出に成功したということにして、それで多分許してもらえるはずです。
That plan sounded like the best idea for minimizing damage, but Lena quietly spoke up.
ダメ。しーちゃんたちがレナたちの逃げ出す時間を稼いでくれたんだもん。監督が言ったら何のためにしーちゃんたちが頑
10
張
from
ってくれ
60 seconds.
たかわかんなくなっちゃう。
Keiichi from 3,600 seconds. Or was it? Was it that many? I can't even remember how many it was. It was 1,500 seconds. Sorry, my bad. I'm LARPing Higurashi right now. LARPing Higurashi reader. 1,500. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
やめてくださいまし、ミオンさん。私だって胸が張り裂けそうなんですのよ。だってシオンさん
Yes! You're supposed to disagree with me and then say that the word LARP is bad. That's what you're supposed to say, Dinah. You're not supposed to just say yes. Mion started to cry as she held Satsuko's head. The mountain dog's beam of light shone into the horizontal tunnel. Their eyes had grown used to the darkness, so even with a little light, they could sort of see one another. But so what? This was a desperate situation, and Mion and Satsuko continued to cry. Bad LARP! Thank you. See, that's a more accurate thing. Rena bit her lower lip and trying to hold her feelings in. Yurei simply looked down. I can't believe you were LARPing all these streams. Yeah, I know, right? Can't believe I was just LARPing reading Higurashi the entire time, but I was actually sitting on my phone scrolling through TikTok. And I had an AI actually like look around the screen and then read off the words that were being said to make it look like I was reading, but it actually wasn't.
どうすればいいの？どうすればいいのかわからない。
僕にもどうすればいいかわかりませんです。
あんた神様でしょ。なんとかしてよ。なんとかしてよ。地通力とかで敵をやっつけてシオンを助けてよ。
Dude, Rika, now's not the
奇
time.
跡でも起こらなきゃ救えない。
And that's why Akasaka's here.
起こしてよ。神様のあなたが起こしてよ。
Slap. They all heard a strange sound. Everyone was surprised to see what caused it. Hanyu just slapped Rika in the face.
リカ、聞きなさい。
ハニュ。
私たちは共にあまたの世界を渡り、人の身では知り得ないことをいくつも知ってきました。
Over the
あ
sky.
る時はあなたが教えられ、いくつもの大切なことを学び、ようやくこの世界で最も大切なことを学び取りました。私たちが求めてやまず、そしてようやく得たもの、それが何かわかりますか？
It was how to make a miracle happen. A miracle's like a number you get on a die. People think that the result of the roll depends on God's mood. God holds the key to miracles. Humans don't have the right to control them. But although humans don't have the right, they can perceive. They can perceive how to improve their odds and how they can make a miracle happen.
奇跡の起こし方。
リカ、あなたはもう知っているはずです。私よりも先に知ったはずです。あなたが本当に大事にしたいこの最後の世界で知りつつ、そのやり方を試さないのですか？
Rika's mouth hung open. That's right, she thought. I had forgotten again how to make a miracle happen.
みんなは逃げてください。
Rika stood up. Everyone was surprised to hear what she said.
入江、みんなを頼みますです。高野は入江も僕も殺すでしょうが、僕だから多分しばらくは殺されないでしょう。
冗談じゃねえ。でも必ず殺されるってことじゃねえか。
僕が出て行かなければ今すぐシーたちは殺されます。なら僕が捕まっても 僕が殺されるまでの時間はきっと反撃のチャンスにもなりますです。
リカちゃん。
考えてみたら
Why is her text
とても
black?
簡単なことだったのです。
As she spoke, Rika stepped out of the horizontal tunnel and reached the ladder. A beam of light shone down upon her. In this dark world, her figure seemed almost holy, like someone receiving a divine revelation.
だって僕たちは絶対に勝てるって僕もみんなもそして神様までも信じてるから。ニパー
Rika's smile told them that she trusted them 100%. She believed someone would come rescue her before she got killed. That was why she didn't mind letting the enemy capture her. If it would save Shion and Kasai's lives, knows nothing.
今上がります。C を引っ込めるのですよ。
The mountain dogs pulled Shion's body away from the edge of the wall.
僕の仲間に指一本触れてみろ。舌を噛んで死んでやりますです。
You know, Rika, why didn't you do that like every other time? You know? Not like you could have.
高野は自分の手で僕を殺したがってますから。お前たちは困ったことになりますですよ。
わかった。上がってこい。
僕の仲間をこのまま見逃すのです。どうせお前たちの計画でやがては全員死ぬのです。
その条件は飲めない。命は保証するが拘束する。
じゃあお気の毒さようなら。舌を噛むよりここで手を離した方が早いわね。この底は深いわよ。私の死体が出てこないとそれもまたお前たちが計画に困るんじゃない？
As long as they captured Rika, the mountain dogs didn't really care about the others. They were ready to kill the rest if they resisted once they had Rika. That's why they wouldn't agree to Rika's request. They started to think that maybe they should lie to Rika. But that was when they heard something. Well, normally they chloroform her. I guess, yeah, that's true. That is true. Hanyu started to speak in a clear voice. It was a voice with a very mysterious tone. It sounded like it was coming from below the surface of the earth, but it also sounded like it was coming from heaven. Hanyu
この
spoke.
私が取引に応じると言っている。ぐずぐず言わずに言う通りにせよ。ゲロ。
I accept the deal? Look at Hanyu's eyes in the other art. Okay. Dude, why does it look like there's something back here? Like, Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare is gonna happen. Dude, why? They made Hanyu look even younger here. They made her eyes more red in the other arts. Whereas they, like, kind of just put a tiny, like, made it pink in this one. Like, they didn't make the color as stand out, I guess, compared to the others.
フルでリカは上がる。それに対し、求めた小さな約束を履行せよ。
It looks like an eye and a mouth. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just looks like something's gonna come out there.
天は自ら与えぬものに与えることはない。人の身に過ぎた考えは
Like, it's just in the darkness, waiting to pop out.
身に過ぎた偽りの罪に身の程を知れ。
Is this a different voice actor? Or is it the same voice actor? Nightingale 1. The member who had been demanding their surrender was suddenly overcome by a strange sensation. He had been in such an advantageous position, but somehow it didn't seem like that way anymore? And that girl's voice, there's something strange about it. That voice belonged to something both holy and sacred. He instinctively sensed it. Humans can only negotiate with other humans. It's impossible to negotiate with a being greater than all humans.
待て、隊長に相談する。そのままで待て。ウグイスワンより大鳥ワン。
Rika's the same in her alternate self, so possibly, okay. But, like, the thing is, I can still hear Rika's voice actor in the other voice, right? But, like, that did not sound like anything. Like, this...
身に過ぎた偽りの罪
Like, there's this?
身の程を知れ。
And then there's where her other thing.
リカ、聞きなさい。
Actually, no, this one still sounds like her.
僕にもどうすれば
But this, yeah.
わかりませんでした。
Like I can hear these two being the same, right? Like these two, they sound like the same self. But this one sounds different.
身に過ぎた偽りの罪に身の程を知れ。
I'm not sure. Everyone was suddenly stunned. Or everyone was stunned by Rika and Hanyu's mysterious aura. Holy Rika and Hanyu aura farming.
必ずすぐ助け出すからね。
I'm surprised Iria didn't like fight back at all. Rena muttered, like he just allowed this to happen. Rena muttered as she tried to hold back her tears.
貴様らの条件を飲もう。この場は見逃す。フルでリカは上がれ。高野三叉がお前に用があると言っている。
では行ってきますですよ。ニパー。
And there she goes. Disappears into the sunset. JoJo Part 3 style. Never to be seen again. But her memory lives on.
探しましたんで、リカさん、あなたは大事な身なんですから、急に姿を消されちゃたまりませんね。こいつはルール違反です。では、リカさんは診療所に来てもらいましょう。お前たちは行け。
The assault unit that led Rika away headed back into the basement. They were about to break the rules too.
約束を破る気ね。
約束？そりゃ何の話ですんね。おおっと、つったら本当に舌を噛まれちゃ叶いませんわ。おい。
As Rika tried to run, Okunogi grabbed her fragile arm. She fought back, but her resistance meant nothing against him. One of the mountain dogs took out a syringe from a case. It shouldn't kill her, but it would probably put Rika to sleep. Takano, after all, didn't need a chatty Rika. She needed a live queen carrier. If Rika got that shot, that would mean the end of this world. Before Rika could scream, the other dog covered her mouth.
さっさと注射しろ。
The dog with the syringe drew closer to Rika's arm. Rika was being grabbed from behind and her mouth was covered. There's no way for her to fight. I believe. Even if I'm asleep. I believe. Rika kept repeating that in her mind. She believed that someone would wake her up. That the first thing she'd see when she opened her eyes would be her beloved friends. And here's where Akasaka comes in before she even goes to sleep. It happened all of a sudden. The man with the syringe spun twice in the air and dropped to the ground. Nobody, including Okunogi, could understand the sudden phenomenon. It defied the very laws of physics. Rika couldn't understand either. The man who was holding Rika from behind spoke up.
間に合った。
Here he is. His voice had such a heavy feeling imbued in it.
数えきれない世界で後悔した。いつも気づく時には手遅れだった。
お前、誰だ？
The others took a few steps back, away from Rika and the man holding her. There are many units within the Mountain Dogs, so often its members don't remember each other's faces. There are just too many units, so nobody really pay attention. I don't know how Akasaka got so what? All the Mountain Dogs were more or less well built, but this man had an excellent physique. Even Okunogi noticed that he'd never seen anyone like that in one of his units before. Rather, he actually wanted to recruit him. But...
私がずっと一番伝えたかった言葉を言うよ。
How Akasaka became the legendary hero in another fragment? Well, I mean, I guess that's how they painted it up. Oh?
君を助けに来た。
The hands that were holding Rika left her shoulders. They left ever so gently. And soon as they did, they transformed into a pair of furious fists, which implanted themselves into the faces of men attacking him from behind. I guess the only way you need, like, to you know, beat this, I guess, is like this very superficial, not superficial, this crazy organization, right? Is that you need basically a superhero-like figure. And there's no one in Hinamizawa that fits that archetype. Maybe you could argue Oishi kind of is, but like he's never felt like that type of person. But Akasaka felt more like it. Like even ever since the Mahjong scene, you know, he kind of had that protagonist vibe about him. And as soon as they did, they transformed into a pair of furious fists, which implanted themselves in the faces of the men attacking him from behind. They flew through the air. Akasaka hit those two without even turning around. 5 members of the Mountain Dogs surrounded Akasaka. However, he didn't even see them. By the way, Diana, did Surplus continue with Umineko or not yet? He could only feel the deep emotion of finally being able to do what he had been longing to do. And the 5 of them sensed it. That maybe, just maybe, he didn't even care that they were there. An Okunogi signal, the 5 Mountain Dogs bore down on Akasaka. Rika dropped to the ground, and Akasaka was left standing. Akasaka, who came back to keep a promise he made with the girl 5 years ago. This promise was worth more than 5 years. He's going camping, he says once he finishes it, he plans to. Okay, nice. Rika knew that. Akasaka probably understood it too. Yeah, no, I get you. The promise went back 100 years. For 100 years, he regretted not being able to save her from the conspiracy. He believed that one day there would be a miracle, and he could travel back to this day. That was why he continued to train himself. His strong will, and Rika's will, made that miracle happen. That one and only miracle allowed Akasaka to be here, in Hinamizawa, in June 1983. His first one went down in the time it took Okunogi to blink. Lowering himself to grapple Akasaka had proven fatal. He wasn't so soft as to let such perfect openings go by. Akasaka's hand smashed into the back of the man's head. His blow was powerful enough to smash a pillar of ice or shatter a mountain of tiles. As it happened, Akasaka was holding back a little so that his target wasn't too injured. Yeah, I don't know what is this narrator announcing Akasaka's actions. Akasaka's well-trained fist continued to knock down the Mountain Dogs one member for every time Okunogi blinked. 1 hit per opponent was all Akasaka needed. This was the true essence of karate. Akasaka's colleagues praised and feared his power. Weapons were useless against him. No matter how hard his victim tried to protect himself, it meant nothing to Akasaka. But he was too strong for the Mountain Dogs to even understand that. It was as if he was a giant they had to crane their necks up to see. Akasaka didn't even give it time to think. Someone from the Mountain Dogs must have called for backup. About a dozen more members had arrived.
大丈夫だ、リカちゃん。私がここにいる限り。君には指一本触れさせない。
僕はお絵かきして待ってますです。
As Rika stayed low to the ground, she picked up a stick and started to carve into the dirt. That made Okunogi even angrier, but he calmed himself down. Then, the warrior's intuition, resting in Okunogi's blood, came to a realization. Numbers didn't matter. Even the full force of the Mountain Dogs wouldn't be able to defeat this monster. All the combat units were still down in the basement. There was no way they could take him.
ってことはよ、戦闘職の俺しか勝負にならねえってことじゃねえか。それにお前の顔、こいつは懐かしい顔だ。たくましくなったじゃねえか。
貴様、まさか。
Oh yeah, dude! They noticed each other from the kidnapping incident. Damn!
標準語じゃ思い出せねえか。なら鉛で話してやるぜ。すったら懐かしか。あん時の青二歳がよくもここまで立派になった。
I completely forgot about that. It had been 5 years. This was the man Akasaka fought when he was investigating the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Akasaka had still been inexperienced then.
あん時は手加減せん指示だった。だがな、今日はそういうわけにはいかんね。あの樽男も助けに来ねえぞ。しかし、この5年でだいぶ鍛えよったんだ。俺は嬉しいんで、 俺はこういうのを期待しとったよ。お前ら手を出すな。俺の獲物だ。
Okunogi took off all of his equipment and threw it on the ground. He loosened one button and then positioned himself. Seeing that, Akasaka realized he was somewhat capable and narrowed his eyes in vigilance. Okunogi took that as an insult, that Akasaka only thought he was somewhat capable. His behavior was still telling Okunogi that he viewed him on the same level as the other small fry. Okay, Akasaka! You can see how buff he is from his shirt print. Akasaka first moved to take a stance and avoid getting Rika involved. How did it look like in original? Holy, look at him. Look at him square up. Wow, he lost all aura in this picture. Akasaka hadn't even moved one bit until just then. Okunogi could easily see that Akasaka was extremely strong, but at the same time he thought he would be fairly simple to take down. Karate may be a martial art, but nowadays it's just a sport. The army combat Okunogi training was completely different. Obviously, Akasaka had studied it a lot, but it was all just child's play. All he learned were routine moves and forms. Besides, karate moves are all fairly straightforward. Okunogi was confident that he could fight any karate pro and win. Okunogi started leaning onto his toes using his meticulous footwork. In contrast, Akasaka still hadn't moved from his back stance. Akasaka was acting as if Okunogi's footwork was simply a trick, which infuriated Okunogi. Okunogi moved fiercely and nimbly, in a manner completely different from how Akasaka was moving earlier. Akasaka remained calm, but Okunogi saw it differently. He can't react to my movements, so he's prepared to take damage in order to deal more. Akasaka couldn't defend himself from Okunogi's quick jab, and it connected with his face. It was just a quick but light attack, but his purpose was to distract Akasaka and create an opening for Okunogi. Okunogi knew that Akasaka would use his arms to guard his face instinctively. Okunogi's real purpose was to attack his abdomen, which would then be unguarded. Of course, Akasaka didn't have enough time to guard himself. It took no more than just good kinetic vision to prevent his attack. Only Okunogi, who trained for many years, had perfected that speed of that technique. Normal people would struggle helplessly while vomiting as if they were to experience Okunogi's kick. It could even rupture internal organs. So it was pretty amazing that Akasaka was still on his feet.
どうした空手や。相手も同じ流派じゃないと戦えないってのか。軽い。何？
Akasaka mumbled something, but Okunogi couldn't hear. Actually, he did hear it, but Okunogi never imagined he could say such a thing in this situation. But he couldn't hear it. He couldn't comprehend it.
軽い。
Yeah, Akasaka literally is anime protagonist here.
貴様の一撃は相手を打ち倒すことしか考えだから重さが宿らない。
は？何をバカなこと言ってやがる。
空手は心を養う、人を打つということは自らも打たれることを知るということだ。自らの一撃が相手に何を及ぼすか、どれだけの痛みや悲しみを与えるかを知ったとき、人は打つ意味と打たれる意味を知るのだ。だからそれに至らない貴様の一撃には重みが宿らない。
それは俺が未熟だということか。
Okunogi attacked Akasaka again, but this time Akasaka was different. Akasaka blocked Okunogi's fists and legs. Of course, Okunogi was still the only one attacking, but Akasaka started to become much more aggressive. Now, as Okunogi attacked, his hands and legs were being injured. Okunogi instinctively sensed that he was in trouble. He thought Akasaka was just a police officer, but his movements were too dangerous. He was merciless. He was dangerous. So Akasaka's training and experience must far surpass Okunogi's. Wait, that dynamic heel kick is in karate, isn't it? Akasaka's heel kick missed Okunogi's head by a millimeter.
てめえ、空手以外にもやってやがるな。
いいや、私は空手しかやっていない。
嘘つくんじゃねえ。さっきから明らかに空手じゃ見たことねえ技が目立つぞ。
Okunogi was starting to become impatient. The reason Okunogi ridiculed martial arts as a sport was because they were all hard-headed and only used set moves. This is how you strike in karate. This is how you punch in boxing. This is how you throw in judo. It's easy to learn, and that's why it's easy to win. But Akasaka was different. He said that he only did karate and he must have spent unthinkable hours training. Yet he was flexible enough to not be confined by only formatted moves. That was understanding at a spiritual level. The spirit of martial arts isn't just forms. One simply learns forms to reach that spiritual level. Therefore, for one who has reached it, there are no forms. What Akasaka had was a philosophical spirit.
貴様の未熟さには落胆した。
Akasaka stepped away from his original spot for the first time. He moved forward. He filled the space between Okanogi and himself with his inescapable conviction. As Akasaka walked closer to Okanogi, Akasaka's assault radius tried to swallow him whole. To be within that radius meant death. Okanogi walked backwards to avoid being in that radius. That was as the result of his clear-headed judgment. Not because he was scared.
人を撃つ意味のわからない貴様に本当の重さというものを教えてやる。
As Okanogi moved backwards, his back hit the van he came in earlier. He was cornered. Having your back to a wall didn't mean you were at a disadvantage. But the more it was pressed against the wall, the further at that disadvantage it became. If Okanogi let Akasaka come any closer, Okanogi wouldn't be able to take a combat stance. Okanogi decided it immediately. The last chance he had was the moment before Akasaka took his next step. Akasaka's foot left the ground. He was taking another step. Now! No tricks, no feints. Okanogi lowered himself and attacked with everything he had. The attack was powerful enough to break Akasaka's ribcage and rupture his heart. I'm a professional, Okanogi told himself. I can't be defeated by this amateur.
俺が山犬のOkanogiだ。
そりゃよかったな。給料いくらだ？
At that moment, Akasaka's eyes opened wide. Holy, that's just like the Mahjong image. All the mountain dogs heard a noise. It wasn't the noise of people fighting. It was the noise of a traffic accident. Okanogi's blow missed by a slight amount. Akasaka's fist struck inches away from Okanogi's face. There was a dent in the sliding door of the van. Windows on both sides had shattered, and it looked like the van was in an accident. It's so absurd. That is really funny. Is it even possible for a human fist to do this? Time resumed its flow, and Okanogi knelt down, falling to the ground. Akasaka didn't miss on purpose. Akasaka couldn't control his fist because he put everything into one blow. Okanogi should thank Akasaka. If Akasaka had been able to control his attack better, Okanogi's face would have ended up like the van. However, although it didn't hit Okanogi's face, it shattered his spirit. Thank you, Rena. Not Rena, Rika. Rika applauded. But in this situation, it didn't sound like applause. It almost sounded like Akasaka's fighting spirit was popping like firecrackers. Akasaka pulled back his fist, turned around calmly, and then spoke.
次だ。面倒だから一度に来い。
They knew. Everyone knew that there was no way to defeat Akasaka with their bare hands. They realized they needed weapons. They also needed more people. They should be better equipped in the base. There should be a better equipped unit in the basement. All of a sudden, things began to move quickly. The remaining mountain dogs emerged from the basement.
地上での発砲は許可されていない。繰り返す。地上での発砲は不可。大鳥1、R を回収して退却許可を。
But the mountain dogs who just witnessed Akasaka's battle against Okanogi realized it was time for them to run. They didn't even care about Rika. Who would even think about taking Rika from him after seeing what Akasaka was capable of doing? When Okanogi regained his awareness, he jumped into a van with the mountain dogs as it drove away. Since Okanogi took it off his intercom device to fight with Akasaka, he had no idea what had transpired in the basement. What happened? After the mountain dogs broke their promise with Rika, they were supposed to round up the remaining club members. When Akasaka showed up, the dogs had to be divided into a ground force and a basement force, which altered the situation. Kasai had gone on a counterattack, and the other club members somehow climbed up from the well. I like how they don't even say. The other club members somehow climbed up from the well and helped him. Since the mountain dogs weren't allowed to fire on the surface, they realized it would make the situation worse if Kasai fired his guns once he came after them. Okanogi was unreachable, so Nightingale 1 had ordered the retreat in his place. Who would bear the responsibility for this? It was probably Okanogi's fault for taking off his intercom fight to fight Akasaka, as he basically abandoned his job as a commander. But everything just happened in the first place because Akasaka showed up. So maybe it was his triumph rather than Okanogi's blunder. Either way, everything was miraculous. The mountain dogs hadn't run with their tail between their legs. They had simply retreated for the moment. When they returned, they would have enough men and enough arms ready to kill all who stand in their way. And that would happen very soon. There's no time to waste.
いいか、無事でよかったのです。なんとかね、奇跡のおかげで。
奇跡じゃありませんです。みんなで力を合わせたから、その中の一人の赤坂が助けに来てくれただけのことなのです。ああ、
そうね、この程度で奇跡じゃもったいないわね。
さあ、今度はこっちが打って出る番なのです。
Okay, their turn to attack now. In the basement, the club members were talking about their grand counterattack. Riko was a little disappointed that she couldn't have joined them, but she was happy that Akasaka told her what she had been waiting to hear. Rika told him about how heroic he had been, and he got a little embarrassed. Kasai was doing alright, but Shion wasn't doing too well. Of course, it wasn't life-threatening, but she couldn't hear well in her left ear, possibly due to being so close to an explosion. To test her hearing, Mion went around to Shion's left side and whispered some dirty words. She seemed to be able to hear them fairly well. Of course, she might have been hearing through her right ear, though. Shion decided to lie down on a tatami mattress in the torture room while Irie kept an eye on her. It's funny. That's literally what happened. Shion decided to lie down on a tatami mattress in the torture room. That is what happened in Chapter 5 and Chapter 2. Mion was very worried, but Shion told her that she was okay, and forced her to go ahead with the next operation. Mion complained that Shion didn't understand her feelings. Now they would have to come up with an idea to rescue Tomitake from the clinic. They had Akasaka and Kasai on their side, both of whom were used to battles. Also, they had Irie, who knew about the secret basement of the clinic. They'd have to get moving quickly, but they had to at least have a plan. It was almost 10:30 a.m. Because of what they had gone through, they were exhausted and it felt like it was almost evening. But if they were at school, it would be only the second or third period. They had to pull themselves together. They had to regain their fighting spirit. Irie checked Shion's left ear with a penlight.
耳鼻科の先生でないとわかりませんが、運が悪ければ鼓膜が破れている可能性もあります。頭痛やめまいはありますか？
いいえ、全然へっちゃらです。
Irie wet his handkerchief and wiped Shion's face gently.
驚いてます？木南沢ファイターズのマネージャーに銃撃戦ができて。
ええ、驚いています。あなたが死ぬ気だったとは。
What you mean you heard you were ready to give up your own life? You were there, Irie. What are you talking about?
前原さんに聞きましたよ。
うわ、ああいう言葉ってその場ではかっこいいけど生き残っちゃうとめちゃくちゃ恥ずかしいですね。やだな。
If something happens to you and I live, my sister will never forgive me for that. I don't have my loved one anymore, but sis does.
茶化しっこなしです。あなたの思い人というのはサトシ君のことですね。
Irie is gonna say that Satoshi is alive.
さあ、どうでしょうね。
Right? Question mark? Question mark?
今頃どこにいるやら。生きてるのか死んでるのかもわかりませんけど。
生きています。
Yeah! Yeah!
え？
They never said what happened to him. And Irie said he didn't want to perform an experiment, like, autopsy on him, or not autopsy, like, do the whatever. It made sense that he was alive. I wonder if Rika's parents are alive as well. I don't think so, because Takano, like, personally hated them. So I don't think they would be alive, but I couldn't be too sure. Shion's thoughts stopped in their tracks when Irie answered immediately.
北条聡君は生きています。彼は去年のあの日、不幸な振動がたたり、末期の発症を迎えてしまったんです。
Mion and the other club members had already told Shion about the current situation, so she kind of understood what he meant.
私は聡子ちゃんと同じ薬で治療できると思いました。ですが、聡子ちゃんが治療できたのは極めて幸運なケースだったようで、そしてその治療は 今も続いているのです。
サトシ君生きてるの？
今まで話せなくてすみません。
Holy.
サトシ君は視覚核にい
I
ま
had a
す。
feeling. Like, ever since chapter 8, it's like, or ever since the chapter 8 fragment of we saw what happened to Satoshi, I had a feeling that he was still alive. Shion and Irie returned from the torture room. Shion looked very serious, as she had gained the determination to fight. Keiichi and the others were just talking about how the enemy found where they were.
入江先生の着衣に発信機か何かが付けられていることは考えられませんか？先生の私服ではなく、診療所で持たされるものや着せられるものにです。
だとするとこの白衣くらいですが。
監督、
How does
ちょっと
Irie
ボディチェッ
look
クします。
like? I don't... Dude. Irie looks like a woman in this art. How does he look like here? Shion checked Irie over like an inspector at an airport. Then she found a little button on the backside of his collar. It was a little round button. There's no reason why a button like this would be on the back of a collar.
こいつが発信機でしょう。連中はこいつを信頼してるから直接尾行しなくてもここを突き止められたんです。やられたわ。となりゃこのボタンがある限り陽動作戦が可能になるってことだね。
ボタンを持ったおとり隊が敵をおびき寄せ、その隙に手薄の診療所を襲い、富武さんを助け出す。それが最善でしょう。
となればそのおとり隊が陽動するには私の裏山が一番でございますわね。
そうだな。あそこなら敵を引っ張り回せるぜ。しかもあれだけの山だからな。敵も相当の手勢を集めるだろう。その分診療所がガラ空きになる。
読み切れないのはどの程度敵が診療所に残るかだ。診療所には敵にとっても重要な富武氏がいる。相応の守備を残すだろう。
となれば富武より美味しい餌をおとりと一緒
This
にする
is
のがい
like-
いのです。
I feel like everyone... This is one of the few times where I actually would be mad if everyone... Or sorry, if not everyone survives. Because I feel they've been, you know, kind of, how do you say? Building it up as this is the perfect... This is the perfect, what am I saying? The perfect timeline. Right? So, if everyone doesn't survive, then it's not the perfect timeline.
大丈夫ですか、リカ？
はいです。みんなと一緒で貞子の裏山なら絶対に捕まりませんです。
裏山に精通してるのはこの中では部活メンバーだけだね。おとりは部活メンバーが引き受けるといいかもしれない。
そうだね。その間に大人部隊は診療所を奇襲。翔さんは大丈夫？
赤坂さんのお目こぼしがあれば警察の方と聞いておりますので。
It's not to see anything. Kasai spoke while loading a shotgun.
今はオフですので。
Akasaka replied while checking an automatic pistol. He hadn't used this particular gun before, but he was used to handling guns. He was prepared to fire too. Irie tried to memorize how to remove the safety, but he looked nervous.
赤坂さんは機関銃の経験は？
ありません。拳銃だけです。
では慣れたものがよろしいでしょう。弾倉は十分に。弾詰まりに備え、同じ銃をもう一丁。
笠井さんはこれはショットガンですか？
奇数発目はスラッグ弾です。面制圧も壁抜きもできます。
おお、散弾銃の立つって通り名は聞いてたけど、本当にショットガン使いなんですね。
散弾銃は恐ろしい武器です。ですから 相手に当てずとも降伏させることもできます。あと皆さん、防弾ベストがありますので着てください。
She just has, I guess, like, yeah, they did check the armory. Kasai sounded very dependable, but at the same time, he reminded everyone that this operation will be a very dangerous one. It wasn't a simple fist fight. Even a veteran soldier can die in a gun battle. There's always a chance of death, regardless of how well trained you are. In fact, Kasai and Akasaka were the people who could be depended upon. Kasai talked Ide out of carrying a gun because it might be dangerous for him to have one. Someone could get injured by friendly fire. Mion suggested that maybe there should be more people on the team. But both Kasai and Akasaka refused because those who couldn't even handle guns at all might end up as dead weight. Okay, but Shion knows. Shion knows.
なら私が行くしかないですね。第一、火力が
Oh,
足り
yeah,
なさ
okay.
すぎです。ファイヤーサポートに私がイングラムでも持ってきましょう。
でもシオン、お前耳大丈夫なのかよ。
ええ、もう治っちゃいました。ケロッとね。ご心配かけてすみませんでした。
I thought Ide said it was ruptured.
シオン、今私が何て言ったか聞いてた？え？あ、嫌だな。聞こえてました。
Okay, yeah, okay. Mion had tricked her. Mion didn't say anything. Shion still couldn't hear out of her left ear.
シオン、危険だよ。正直に言って、おとりに混じるのも危険だと思ってる。シオンはどこかに身を隠してて。おねえ、聞いて。私、どうしても診療所に行かなければならない用事ができたの。でも、それを今話したら、里子まで来ると言い出す。それはダメ。こっちは室内戦。向こうも撃ってくる。それって。
Mion sensed it. She sensed the reason why Shion had to go to the clinic. That was why she didn't say anything more. If she was in Shion's position, she would go even if neither of her heirs could hear.
危険ですわよ、シオンさん。考え直してくださいまし。
里子、シオンは救出隊に回る。里子はおとり隊のエースなんだよ。自分の仕事に専念して。しーちゃん。レナさんならわかるよね。私が死ぬ気じゃないってこともね。
うん、わかってる。こういう時の女の子ってね、絶対に死なないから。
ですよね。殺されたって死ぬもんか。
Shion and Dena gave each other a high five.
決まったようですね。では、もう動き始めましょうです。
シー、ボタンをこっちで預かるです。
はい、これ。頑張ってね、リカちゃま。
シーも頑張って。シーが強く強く信じてきた奇跡だから。だからきっとこれはシーのために神様が微笑んでくれたチャンスなのです。
信じなかった日もあった気がする。それを誰かに諭された日もあった気がする。信じ続けるって大変なことだよね。
でもあなたは信じ続けました。信じなかったことを悔い、信じました。だから訪れた今日をどうか大切に。今日を呼び寄せたあなたの強い意志の前に、目の前の苦難はもはや苦難ではない。
あんた、お姉の新しい友達ですか？名前は知らないけど、ありがとう。うまくいきそうな気がします。
うまくいきますですよ。お社様のお墨付きなのです。
And there she goes. We go back to Oishi POV? No, okay. The mountain dogs have retreated and reorganized their units. They were now ready to attack again. Takano was furious at them for not being able to bring R back to the clinic, even though they had her in their hands. She gave an order to capture her with all the mountain dogs' forces put together. Their vehicles were at the clinic. They were all standing by for the order to attack. Takano wasn't the only one who was furious. Okunogi was angry as her. That rookie policeman from 5 years ago had grown. He even made Okunogi yield. He couldn't accept that he was defeated, so he was bent on revenge. The reason why the order to attack was held off was because the signal from the transmission device on Ide was momentarily interrupted. They interrupted it to mean that Ide had gone even farther down into the basement. Mountain dogs assumed that the club members would go even further underground and try to escape by using some kind of secret passageway. That passageway couldn't be that long. They'd have to come to the surface eventually. The mountain dogs were planning to catch them as soon as they surfaced. The villagers were too busy with finishing setup for the festival. They had no idea what was going on. By this time, the mountain dogs had shut down the telephone network. They were afraid the club members would call the police. The only way into the town was being watched by the blockade unit, so the club members couldn't escape that way. Our and her friends had come to the surface. They couldn't be thinking of staying underground until things settled down. Their lifeline, Tomitake, was in captivity. They couldn't be stupid enough to think of attacking the clinic to rescue him. More than likely, they would try to escape from the village on foot. They would probably call the police to help them. The patrol unit had several cars driving around the village, their eyes peeled for the signal of the transmitter or those on the run. It was time to wait patiently. The battle had returned to the starting point, and the balance of power was even again.
いつまでも息を潜められるわけねえんだ。じれずに待て。絶対に出やがる。ところでうちのお姫様はどうした？
富武2位に尋問中です。どうやら説得を試みているようです。
こうなっちまったら、穏便に済ませるには監査役を抱き込むほかねえからな。生かして捕らえたのはでかかったぜ。お姫様はいねえし、東京からの電話もねえ。ようやく落ち着いて冷房を浴びられるってもんだな。
隊長、東京から無線です。野村さんから三叉当てでなく隊長当てです。
やれやれ、電話がダメなら無線かよ。さて、東京の女王様がこの後に及んで俺に何のお話ですかね。山犬のおこのぎです。どうぞ。
We never hear what Nomura says. Tomitake was being held in a small meeting room. He was shoved under a desk. He was restrained so tightly that he couldn't even turn around. Takano was sitting in a chair next to the table, staring at a whiteboard. It outlined the research plan that was to be shut down, but Takano wasn't really reading it. She was just staring. Neither of them said a thing. Silence filled the meeting room.
もうすぐ11時ね。本当に今日は長い日。あんなにも早朝に起こされてから、まだ半日も経たないのね。
Tomitake didn't reply.
ジローさん、今からでも私に協力してはくださらない。山犬なんかいらない。あなたさえいてくれればいいわ。山犬には私の心を慰めることなんかできない。あなたの一見無神経な心遣いでしかジローさんは分かってて私に無神経に接してくれてたのよね。変に同情しても何の役にも立たないなら、せめて私の心を気分転換で楽にさせてあげようと思って、そう思ってあんなに無神経を装ってでも私を楽しませてくれたのよね。高野三等陸佐として話してるんじゃない。高野美代として。それでも
捕虜は名前と階級と認識番号しか喋っちゃいけないことになってるんでね。
Takano hung her
その
head.
手錠の鍵持ってないの。ごめんなさい。
いいよ。それを求めたわけじゃないさ。
コーヒー飲む？
遠慮するよ。この状態でトイレの世話になりたくないからね。
It was hardly a conversation, but Takano was happy that Tomitake had finally replied. However, that wouldn't solve any of their problems.
僕を殺すしかないならそれも構わないさ。捕らえられた時にすでにその覚悟はできてる。
そうね。私も二郎さんを今夜殺すつもりだったから、あなたにその覚悟があって。
ならよかったよ。この覚悟が無駄にならなくて済む。
ねえ、死にたくないとは思わないの？あなたが私の味方になると誓ってくれれば、私はあなたを死なせずに済むの。上はあなたを生かす価値はないって言ってるけど、そこは私が何とかするから。
上は誰だい？
知らないわ。私と接触するエージェントは野村と名乗ってるけど、私も素性はよく知らないわ。
でも手を組む相手に足ると思う程度には話をしたんだろ。
数度ね。おしゃべりをしただけよ。今にして思うと私を利用したいという魂胆が見え見えだった。でもなぜかあの時は彼女だけが私のことを理解してくれるってそう思ったのよ。
わかるよ。君に
誰かの助けが必要な時期があったことは知っている。その時、君のそばにいるのが僕でありたかった。
そうね。そこにいたのが二郎さんだったら、どんなに良かったことか。
まだ、誰も死んでない。
これから殺すわ。
東京には、君の黒幕もいれば、それと対立する黒幕もいるが、ほとんどの上層部は、今回の件をうやむやにして終わらせたいと思っているはずだ。高野さんは、もう全てが手遅れだと思っているだろうけど、まだなんとかなるんだ。まだ取り返しがつく。なかったことにできる。
そうして、祖父が築き上げた、ひなみ沢症候群の研究も。
高野さん。
Well, Tomitaka is talking to her.
Kimiは何がどうなれば満足だったんだい。
Takano closed her eyes for a bit while she came up with an answer. Her grandfather's research had been insulted. She wanted those with higher positions of authority to take it seriously. No one could make that happen. When the final operation was enacted, the higher-ups of the country would have to read the article, and they would have to believe what's in it. It will authorize the execution of the emergency manual. And yes, that would create an irreversible disaster. But at the same time, the disaster would prove that her grandfather's article had merit.
それで、君は満足だったね。
ええ、満足よ。それが、高野美代の生を受けた理由だから。
前に聞いたね。なら君は、この作戦が終わったら消えてしまうわけだね。高野美代の目的は達せられ、地上からなくなり、君は本当の君に戻るんだ。田無美代子。それが本当の君の名前のはず。
How long had it been since she heard that name? Takano closed her eyes slightly.
そうね。私はもうすぐ、田無美代子に帰るのね。
田無美代子という少女は、
Why do they do like every single chapter they've done this where they just randomly switch up the Tomitake voice actor? I don't know why.
そしてそこで虐待されて死んだ。君はそう言ったね。
What the hell was I don't know. I don't think it's raining outside, but if it was raining, like, that was like the loudest thunder I've ever heard in my life, and the longest thunder. If it was even that. If not, I have no clue what that was.
言ったわ、私は。あの日の、あの金網の中に戻らなければならない。二郎さんは経験ある？
Akano told Tomitake about her horrible experiences, which were simply unimaginable for normal people.
もう一度あそこに戻って。今度は、おじいちゃんに助けられずに死ぬの。そうすれば、私はここにいない。私がいなければ、入り駅感もなく、こんな妙な運命の行き止まりに迷い込むこともなかった。
君は、死ぬ気だね。
作戦が終わったら、いろいろとご褒美があることになってるけど、あまり信じてない。ある日突然、ホームでドンと突き落とされるんじゃないかしら。
君には、心を許せる味方はいないのか？
クライアントは所詮クライアント。味方じゃないわね。でも山犬は味方よ。彼らが私の靴を舐めたくなるくらいの金を弾んでやったからね。
でも、心は許せないんだろ？
味方は味方よ。あなたを捕らえ、今から R たちも捕らえようとしている。私の役に立ってくれてるわ。
それは今の君に必要な味方じゃない。
そうね。今の私に必要な味方じゃない。
Takano paused. He paused because Tomitake had said exactly what she'd been thinking. Since the day Tomitake disappeared, she had been feeling restless. Takano had to admit, she needed Tomitake.
ジローさん、山犬は何億円かのお金で転んでくれたわ。まだ私の手元には1億ちょっと残ってる。あなたはいくら払えば転んでくれるの？
君が一番欲しいものがいくらで買えるかを。
こんな時にキザな例えだこと。お金では買えないって言わせたいのね。
諦めるんだ。山犬は飼いならせても僕は飼いならせない。
それを転ばせたいと言っているの？あなたが望むならお金だけじゃない、何でも与えるわ。私の髪の毛一本からつま先の先端まであなたのものにしていい。靴を舐めろと言うなら今この場で舐めてもいいわ。それでもまだ足りない。
Tomitake didn't reply. It was an affirmation by silence, but a signal to Takano that he already told her everything he meant to say. That the most saddening form of silence for her. And the...
あなたより毎朝早く起きて待ち合わせ場所には必ずあなたより先に来る。二度とあなたを待たせて試すような真似をしない。それでも
Dude, I have to go check it.
ダメなの。
Is it if it's raining or something? Like, I looked and it did not look like it was raining. Give me a second. Okay, yeah, I open my door and like even though it doesn't look like it's raining at all, it is. You can hear it's raining. So that is crazy loud thunder though. Mitake didn't say a word. Couldn't see her face under the desk. He could sense it. This wasn't the time to say anything to her. Remaining silence was the only thing he could do. Suddenly the phone rang. Takano sniffled once and picked it up.
そう、わかったわ。今すぐ行くわ。
Takano stood up as she put down the phone.
R が発見されたわ。入江の発信機の反応も一緒。街道が封鎖されていることを知ってて、山中を徒歩で脱出するつもりのようね。山狩りには手こずりそうだけど、人目がないのは私たちに好都合だわ。じゃあね、二郎さん。なんとなく、これがあなたとできた最後のおしゃべりになるような気がする。最後に、あなたから言葉がもらえなくて。
And still, Tomitake stayed silent. Takano ran out of the room. Didn't look like she was hurrying back to work. What was that meant to symbolize exactly? Is it her entering back her prison?
村人に接触して助けを求めようとしたのかもしれませんが、偵察車両の1台が逃走車の一部と R を発見、追跡。一時期 R と発信機は別行動しましたが、地図の山中で合流しました。
チリジリになったのが合流できたということ？
ええ。連中は逃走路について十分な打ち合わせをしてやがったんちゅうことでしょうな。山の中なら地の利があると踏んでやがるに違いない。ブッシュが深ければ武器の効果は激減する。あの空手野郎の考えそうなことですね。
Okunogi was determined to catch them this time. He kept saying how he was simply caught off guard before.
今度はもう逃がせないわよ。ひなみ沢でならともかく、沖宮に入られたらもうどうにもならない。
ええ、わかってます。向こう
Why did Arv Can suddenly start playing?
こちらも躊躇したらアウトですわ。全般で包囲、圧殺します。聞こえてるな、全般。こいつはサッカーだ。敵はゴールエリアに侵入してる。ゴールは沖宮だ。絶対に許すな。特にあの空手野郎だ。絶対に仕留めてやる。
大鳥了解。
ウグイス了解。
ひばり了解。白鷺了解。
行くぞ。山犬の総力戦だ。こいつがしくじればうちらは積まれてゲームオーバーだ。
その通りよ。もう後がない。私も出て陣頭指揮を取るわ。 富武はここに置いていっても大丈夫？
大丈夫ですんね。完全武装の保安隊員が8人もおりますんね。その倍の完全武装兵が来てもしのげます。それよりも問題なのはあの空手野郎です。奴を侮ることはできませんぜ。
The security unit guarded the basement of the Idia Institute, which was the heart of the organization. Therefore, they were armed more heavily than anyone else in the Mountain Dogs. Okunogi's confidence in the security unit and his newfound obsession with defeating Akasaka made the diversionary plan a success. But at the same time, that meant the decoy club members would have to deal with the full force of the Mountain Dogs. The dogs' white fans ran through the village. While they couldn't fire shots outside, all members were carrying stun guns that fired electric needles. While poor on range, they could subdue a target instantly. With the flip of a switch, they could change between merely stunning or killing their target, the perfect weapon for people like the Mountain Dogs. The van separated into groups and headed for the mountains. They were planning to surround their enemies and smoke them out.
隊長、前半作戦開始位置に到着しました。
さすがに展開が早いぜ。サンサ、全班にありがたい訓示を頼みます。
高野よ、R だけは生かして捉えること。他はこの山から逃がしてはダメ。
She's in her captain's uniform again.
今日の戦いすべてに決着をつけるのよ。
ウグイス、ヒバリ、白鷺、山
What does
狩
this
りを
look
開
like
始しろ。
again? How's that like? That symbol. But they don't have it this time.
大鳥はゴールキー
I
パーで
wonder, I can't remember what that if that symbol means anything.
緊急展開が可能なように常時待機しろ。
大鳥セブン、了解。
さあ、おっ始めろ。
The mountain dogs started marching, spreading out in a line with a few meters between them. The mountainside was a savage land where not even the villagers would dare tread. There were some trails, but no paved roads for human beings. It required an enormous amount of diligence and patience to hunt on a mountain like this. All the dogs were very nervous. They were told that most of their enemies were children, but there were a few well-trained adults with them as well. In addition, they were supposedly armed quite heavily, and they knew the layout of the terrain quite well. It was obviously going to be a tough battle.
おこのぎ、山狩りってのは普通、どのくらいの人数がいるの？
一概には言えませんが、多ければ多いほどいいでしょうな。山犬の人数じゃ全員集めても全く足りません。
でも向こうも少人数なんだから、そう不利な条件じゃないでしょ。ほらよく言うじゃない。守備を崩すには3倍の兵力がいるって。こっちはさらにその倍以上いるんだから。
まあ、数万の兵力の場合ならそういう数式になるでしょうが。
It doesn't work in smaller scale battles. The US Armed Forces proved that in the Vietnam War.
なら、今回の山狩り、おこのぎはどれだけの兵力がいると見てるの？
何でもありってことでですか？
何でもありって意味がわからないけど、どのくらいが適正な兵力なの？
今朝の政治的奇襲も含めて、向こうの指揮官は相当優秀です。そして火器取り扱いのベテランが最低2、近接格闘のベテランが最低1。
そこまでは認めるけど、あとは所詮子供でしょ？
あとは子供のようですが、多分ここに逃げ込んだからには彼らのテリトリーでしょう。地の利が十分な子供一人はよく訓練された強襲偵察隊一個小隊に匹敵しますね。
That's an interesting way of viewing it.
サンサが考えてますより相当厄介な相手ですわ。
それを制圧するのにどの程度の兵力が必要だっていうの？
山岳歩兵が1個師団。ああ、師団ってのは山犬が3つ4つくっついて大隊。そいつがさらに3つ4つくっついて連隊。
30倍の兵力が必要だというの？
もちろんそれだけじゃ足りません。砲兵陣地に要請して山ほどの事前
Okay, I think that might be a bit overkill, but maybe that's just
支
me.
援が得られるならファントムにナパームもばらまかせたいところですね。
冗談じゃないわ。そんな兵力ここにはないわ。じゃあそれにはるかに満たない山犬で山狩りをしたらどうなるっていうの？
まあ楽じゃないでしょうな。
Okunogi laughed boldly. He said it wouldn't be easy, but he also seemed to be implying that he was the only one capable of doing it.
連中のテリトリーでしょうが、逃げ込んだのはついさっきです。陣地もなけりゃ、トラップ設置の暇もないはずだ。
Yeah, but little does he know that we're already set up a long time ago.
生かすには時間が足りないはずです。
As Takano listened to Okunogi's explanation, she felt a little anxious. When she pretended to be friendly with Satoko a long time ago, she used to tell Takano all about her mountain. Takano remembered how Satoko told her about all kinds of traps she set up, but she couldn't recall which mountain Satoko was talking about. You don't think that's important to say, Takano?
人質にできれば十分よ。R がいなくても捕らえて。
ウグイス、聞こえるか？近隣の班を応援に回して退路を立て。
ウグイス了解。バックアップする。
Whoa, this is a new area. Wait a second, I have to check something. Mion, why don't you use your gun that you have?
そりゃそうだよね。退路を立ちたいよね。
Some fallen trees were leaning against a much larger pine tree, forming a natural scaffold. A small hut made out of plywood had been built on top of them. It was one of Satoko's many secret bases. It was in a perfect spot since Mion could see the foot of the mountain well.
すごいね。みーちゃんの予想通りだね。
さて、我が部にどの程度叶うか、お手並みを拝見しようかね。
レナたち、勝てるかな？
なーに言ってんだか。向こうの指揮官は無能だね。私たちを攻めるなら山岳訓練を終了したベテラン歩兵が
Oh, well, there you go.
いるね。
Mion already knows as well.
それをせいぜい中隊規模でとはね。未熟にも程があるよ。さーて、何人が私たちを相手にしてこの山を無事に降りられるかな。
Meanwhile, do we get the meanwhile?
クソだれ
No, okay.
ひばり4攻撃を受けた。クソ逃がすな。丸太を山ほど転がしてきやがった。ひばり6が捻挫で追撃不能。残りで追撃する。
逃がすなよ。追って追いまくれ。休ませるんじゃねえ。
ヒバリ11、トラップによる攻撃を受けた。ヒバリ12、13が多分脳震盪だ。あんなの当たりどころが悪かったら死んでるぞ。
ヒバリ60、トラップにやられた。光線が足に絡まって脱出できない。ナイフじゃ切断できない。番線カッターを持ってきてくれ。
Chaotic radio transmissions came in one after another. Obviously, Okunogi had been wrong about the mountain dogs being in an advantageous
ウグイ
position.
ス10より本部。クソったれが井戸を偽装した落とし穴だ。隊員2名が閉じ込められて救出不能。応援を送れ。やべ。
どうしたウグイス10。応答しろウグイス10。
ウグイス10だ。やられた。俺を後ろから突き飛ばしやがった。ウグイス9から11は井戸内。健在なれど脱出不能。クソ。
本部よりウグイス、バックアップが奇襲を受けた。行動が読まれているぞ。注意しろ。
ウグイス1だ。聞いていいか。どうして動きが読まれるんだ。上空に無人機の影はないぞ。
ヒバリ1より本部、追跡に失敗。
Everyone's failing.
無理だ。この山はトラップだらけだぞ。この距離を追うだけで何人負傷しちゃってんだ。
白鷺1より本部、 R を含む数名を発見した。追跡している。至急応援を送れ。連中め、か乱してトラップで絡め取ろってんだな。白鷺は用心しろ。向こうはお前らをトラップ地帯におびき寄せるつもりだ。敵は各個に分散し、陽動と奇襲のゲリラ戦術で抵抗してくる気だ。高度だぞ。すでに他班でトラップとアンブッシュで負傷者が多発している。用心しろ。気合い入れてかかれ。白鷺1。ん？白鷺 1。
白鷺2より本部。
What is this song? This is new?
白鷺1がトラップに。誰か班長を吊り捨てるロープを切れ。残りは追撃しろ。 R を逃がすな。
ウグイス1より本部、 ウグイス7たちが沈黙した。襲撃にあった可能性が否定できない。応援を送る許可を。
白鷺5、隊員3名が上空から降ってきたドラム缶の直撃を受けて混沌した。何なんだここは。こんなのがまだまだあるってのか。
ヒバリ13だ。やられて倒れてたようだ。今一人発見した。追跡する。やろう。よくもやってくれやがったな。
よせ、やめろヒバリ13。お前が一人で叶う相手じゃない。
お兄さん、こちらですわよ。
クソガキが待ちやがれ。
Yo, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Skylark, do we get the picture here as well? No, they just decided to paint him because they felt like it. Skylark 13 chased Satsuko with an enraged snarl on his face, but Satsuko ran through the woods effortlessly. Small branches scratched his body all over, but he continued to chase Satsuko. Satsuko ran like the wind. To her, she was simply running in her own backyard. Who would get injured in a place like this? As Skylark 13 ran after her, he passed many mountain dogs who couldn't even move because of Satsuko's traps. The more of his trapped fellows he saw, the more he wasn't sure if the girl he really was after was really a girl. She was just something that looked like one. He reached an area where logs were stacked up in piles. It seemed like the trees in the area were being chopped down. It was a rather strange scene. On his way there, Skylark 13 saw a member from a different unit hanging upside down from a tree. He also saw feet sticking out of a pitfall. They were members whose foot was tied to the root of the tree with a device that looked like a pair of handcuffs. He reached this area after seeing all of them. He suddenly started sweating all over his body. For Skylark 13 realized he'd been lured into a trap. He'd been caught in a snare. She had tricked him. The girl was standing in the middle of the open area, calmly bouncing on a stump. She was simply looking at him. Shit, he thought. She's trying to lure me in.
ヒバリ13だ。一人を広場みたいなところで追い詰めた。捕まえてやる。捕まえてやる。
こちらウグイス7。お前の後ろで吊るされてる男だ。そいつは少女じゃない。少女の姿をした悪魔だ。そいつの後を追えば。
That's one way of looking at it.
本部よりヒバリ13。それで十分だ。応援を待て。今そこに最寄りの隊員を向かわせている。
どうなさいましたの？私を捕まえたければ、あともう10メートルくらいは歩く必要がございますわよ。
It was only 10 meters. If he walked about 10 meters, he could catch that bratty little girl. How many steps did he have to take to walk 10 meters? If he took 10 steps to walk 10 meters, that would mean there'd be 10 more chances of stepping on a trap. But it was only 10 steps. If you can catch her after just taking 10 steps.
そう思いなら、まずは最初の一歩を踏み出してみればいいではございませんが。ほらほら。
くそ。
How was he going to take his first step? That area with weeds looked suspicious, but the bare ground looked suspicious too. What if he jumped onto a tree stump? No, no! That was what she wanted him to do! Cold sweat was dripping off Skylark 13's body. He only needed to take 10 steps. So why was he so nervous about taking the first one? Oh, and you're dead.
よせヒバリ13。さっき根っこで足を縛られてたウグイス8だ。切り株はきっと罠だ。辺りは切り株だらけというのがうさんくさい。聞こえるかヒバリ13。
Yeah, this guy's cooked.
草むらは踏むな。むき出しの土もやばい。
Dude, okay. I would understand if there were different people saying things, but this guy just said like 50 different things. Where is he supposed to walk then?
だね。どこを踏めばいいんだよ。空を飛んでけってのかよ。
まだいらっしゃいませんの？私退屈ですから、そろそろ失礼しますわよ。
こちらスマキにされて転がっているウグイス9だ。今標的の一人にその頭を切られて、そこはトラップフィールドだと言ってるぞ。え？その待ち構えてる小娘の最高傑作が設置されているらしい。油断するな。
You've gotta be kidding me. Did he say magnum opus? Yeah, they didn't have anything different. What does he mean by magnum opus? And what about all the other traps? Weren't they her magnum opus? We mountain dogs are professionals. We paid to engage in battles. If this little girl is playing us like fools, can we not beat her? Can't we beat that brat? This must be a bluff. How is it possible for a trap to exist that's worse than what I've seen so far? That's a bluff. That must be a bluff. Now I'm definitely gonna get her. Should I start my right foot? Or my left? The girl suddenly lifted her hand and thrust it at me. Is she trying to tell me to stop?
何事もなく5歩を無事に歩けたらあなたの勝利ということでいいですわよ。
ほほ、それは大した自信じゃねえか。もし俺が5歩何もなく歩けたらどうするつもりだ。
そうですわね。私の敗北を認めて降参して差し上げてもよろしくってよ。私今日は最高にトラップ脳が絶好調ですの。あなたを5歩で絡め取ってご覧に入れますわ。
クソガキ！
落ち着けひばり13。挑発に乗るな。そいつは悪魔だ。外見に騙されるな。そいつは人の心を読むぞ。俺たちの叶う相手じゃねえ。
本部よりひばり13、深追いするな。十分だ。近くまでウグイスが応援に来ている。その場で耐えろ。
それじゃ俺の負けってことじゃねえかよ。こうだとくそ、乗ってやるぜ。5歩、たったの5歩だな。
男が何度もくどいですわね。愛のささやき以外は男は一言で十分ですのよ。
このガキャ！
ひばり13、読まれるぞ。劇場は思考を読まれるぞ。
落ち着け。そうさ、俺はひばりの13番。ミントみたいにクールなのが遠いさ。
Who's Golgo?
だから熱くならずによく考えろ。そうさ、俺の思考はすでに絡め取られていた。奴に向かって5歩進まなければならないって時点で思考を絡め取られてたぜ。
ほほう、それはどういう意味でございますの？
This is what it means.
ないじゃねえ。後ろに5歩歩くんだよ。
I did it. I did it. I was certain it was a trick. If I take 5 steps, I win. She didn't say I had to move forward. I can go backwards too.
だからあなたは5歩でおしまいなんですのよ。
Dude, what is that? This is so stupid. What was that?
ひばり13、沈黙。
あのバカ、すっかり乗せられやがって。
Satoko's remarkable performance wasn't just her effort alone. Mion had mastered the geography and the enemy's formation while instructing Satoko. Satoko marked all of her traps on the map. When that map and Mion's ability to command combined, the club was simply unbeatable. Rika and Hanyu, who knew about the mountain almost as well as Satoko, relayed orders from Mion to Keiichi or Rena, then prepared the ambush. The traps didn't always activate when they were stepped on. Sometimes Keiichi and the others were setting them off right at the right moment. But Keiichi and Rena continued to fight everywhere according to Mion's orders, and sometimes they'd hide and sometimes they'd attack. One by one, they'd eliminated their enemies. Satoko's traps have been taking down the most of the enemies, but Keiichi's surprise attacks with his bat had worked out successfully too. Not even the well-trained mountain dogs could respond to attacks after being stunned by these traps. Humans need little time to react. According to the research done by the US Armed Forces, the average reaction time is 15 seconds. In other words, any soldier is powerless during 15 seconds following a surprise attack. Shortening those 15 seconds is one goal of their training. No matter how much they train, it'll never become 0. Reaction time? I think this is maybe not said properly. Their radio communications had actually made things much worse for them. The more they had heard about damage done to other units, the more worried they got. They slowed down and made them think less strategically. At that point, as far as Mion was concerned, the mountain dogs were no longer a force to be reckoned with.
ケイチは大成功しましたです。仲良くスマキにしてニパーなのです。はあ、サトコの方もうまくいったようなのです。みんなやっつけてしまいましたです。
了解、確認するけど この攻撃での戦果は5だね。
Points for what?
どうするよ敵さん。南部方面軍はこれで戦力の3割は脱落だよ。負傷者の対応に通常1人から2人ってことは、手の空いた兵士はほとんどいないってわけだ。まっとうな指揮官なら本部に撤退を申し入れるね。
こちらひばり湾、隊員に負傷者多数。負傷者への対応で追撃に手が回らない。これ以上の追撃は断念せざるを得ない。
ひばり湾、損害は大きいが我が方は確実に敵の行動権を狭めているぞ。撤退は認めない。現状兵力で戦線を維持せよ。
くそー。ひばり湾より全員本部から死ねと命令だ。装備を再点検しろ。進軍を再開するぞ。
でも高野さんたちは頭に血が上ってるからそれを許可しない。指揮官は撤退を却下され、士気が低下したまま追撃を再開。こいつは叩く絶好のチャンスだね。リカちゃん、レナと合流して Z 地区に誘い込んで。あそこのトラップはだいぶごっついよ。羽生はケイちゃんに X 地区に転戦しろと連絡を。こんな面白いゲームはないね。
ミオンが絶好調なのです。今のミーが生まれる時代を間違えていたら歴史に名を残しかねないのです。
You know what? I was gonna say something and then I just didn't bother.
私に言わしゃ、ネルソンも東郷もまあまあってとこだね。もう裏山全体が手に取るようだよ。
Mion was the type to display exponential ability. When she's down, she's at rock bottom, but when she's in perfect form, she's just terrifying. That was the blood of the head of one of the 3 families of Hinamizawa. If Mion had been around for a historical battle, she would have changed history. If she were to join Napoleon, Siberia would be French territory. If she were to join Hitler, Europe would belong to the Third Reich. And even with all that, the battle in the mountains was simply a diversion. Just as Mion had expected, everything had collapsed into chaos. If the mountain dogs could think calmly, they could have realized that they hadn't seen any adults. But they didn't notice, confused as they were by all the attacks they were suffering. Of course, that too was part of Mion's plan. The skill of the diversion would hide the fact that there was a rescue unit going to get Tomitake. Therefore, the more chaotic the battle grew on the mountain, the better it was for the rescue unit. That's why she chose such an ostentatious method of fighting. But at the same time, that was exactly the kind of fighting that Mion preferred. She didn't intend to let it be just a diversion. She was planning to destroy the dog's main force on these mountains. Yet most frightening of all was our home advantage. It wasn't exaggerating to say that the theory that the defenders have thrice the advantage over the assailants is heavily due to their advantage of location. In that case, how is the rescue unit doing? Were they at a disadvantage because they were on the offense? And I think that is a good place to end off there. In the midst of the battle, the rescue unit we now go to. This is the one I'm more interested in, to see what was happening here. I want to see how Shion's reaction to seeing Satoshi again. But yeah. I'm going to be heading out now. Yeah. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Were you here, Dianea, when the barrel fell on that guy's head? What was that? It was so funny. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna be leaving now. So thank you for I'll talk to you about it after Discord, but after, yeah. But yeah, thank you for everyone who stopped by the stream. I appreciate it. I'll be back with more Higurashi on Sunday. And tomorrow